Hello, everybody. We are here together with Lila Lieberman. I don't actually know any of your other names, and we're going to be chatting about these crowning times once again. Lila, I met you a long time ago, and very briefly, you were assisting to ordain a wedding between Haley and yeah,
Yeah.
that's the closest I know you. And
Mhm.
it really touched me. It was really beautiful wisdom work that you did there. And I know also of you and your works, and I've read some of your things, and have a lot of respect for you. And I'm very interested to know more about you. Could you introduce yourself a little bit before we go ahead? And you're in Australia.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
Australia now, East Coast Australia. Yeah. Yeah, so thank you for your kind words and the respect is returned.
Thank you.
Um, a little about myself. So, academically, what the build up to how I'm practicing as I am academically, I trained in transpersonal psychology and philosophy, anthropology, linguistics. And well, this was after I came back from an exchange, a student exchange in South America straight after school. And the exchange was quite conservative. So halfway through, I left and I went hitchhiking up through Chile into Bolivia and Peru. And then it looked, now in retrospect, I can say the plants were waiting for me, the shamans were waiting for me. So I was cleaned and trained and taught by the plants, mainly in the Atacama. And then when I came back to South Africa, I went to university and studied all those things, got my honors in transpersonal psychology and philosophy. And all the while, as soon as I came back, I was obviously carrying the spirit of the jungle and the desert. Sangomas around South Africa started to just approach me and tell me I have a calling and I needed to train. And at first, this was a bit overwhelming, you know. Growing up in apartheid, we were kept quite different. So I didn't know the culture, although I was always interested. I was always interested in, but the bridge to jumping into such a level of initiation was quite big. So I said no to that calling for about 12 years, but I still worked with certain Sangoma and trained and healed and did all my ancestral ceremonies until eventually working with plants on the Amazon all the while and learning different modalities all the while and using dance as a medicine, really gathering tools. I eventually found the teacher that was to train me. So then we did the initiation in South Africa in 2012. And in a nutshell, that's how it opened. So, you know, as you would know, when you're in initiation, you start to notice what your latent gifts are, and they start coming forward, and your teacher notices and you notice, and you start to ride with them. So, as my ceremony closed, my closing ceremony finished, I started receiving a body of knowledge that at the time I didn't know was going to be this whole body that was going to carry on for decades. But it just started to give me these beautiful teachings, 5 pieces in each. And eventually the title became The 5 Pillars of Medicine, literally as if I'm taking dictation from spirit.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful because it's just a map of the foundational allocations of quality and medicine in all of creation, and then how to use that therapeutically, and then how those properties build up this living hallucination that we call the world or life, and then how the secretary of that works, and then how that timeless knowledge has always been moving through since timelessly, but we can see traces of it in ancient Egypt and the speckles all over the planet. Essentially, when you know truth, it's all the same truth. There's only one story. It's just wearing many different clothes.
Yeah, yeah. So that so resonates for me. That's beautiful. That's really awesome. Thank you for putting it in that way. Yeah. Okay. And so you were actually born in South Africa and now you're living in Australia.
Yeah, that's right. I came here about almost 7 years ago now.
What is it that called you there?
Well, I met my late partner, Dan Schreiber.
Right.
I remember.
Yes.
So we met at a conference we were both speaking at in South Africa. And then 3 years later, we actually got close and got friendly and got together. And then it was so easy. I just came to live in Australia. And then that was an initiation in itself, beautiful few years. And then he got ill. And that was another initiation and then passed. So he's still around. He's still intelligent as anything, mischievous, humorous as anything, can tune in and get beautiful downloads as well, mainly about mycelium and microbes.
Oh, really?
Still around and still fully aware of what's going on the planet at the moment. very beautiful friendship that flies beyond life and death.
Oh, that's magic.
Mm.
I have a very strong calling to come to Australia as well at some stage. I dream Aboriginal people, and
Yeah.
I've been taken to sit on top of Uluru a number of times, and so it might even be this year.
Amazing.
But yeah, it'd be nice to meet in person if.
Yeah, sure.
When.
And I can share a little bit about the dreaming with you of the understanding of the different places in Australia. So the east coast of Australia, it's kind of jutting out almost like the front of a ship moving through time, because the sun reaches here first. Mm-hmm. And it hits the east coast, and especially where we are, where I've been placed quite beyond my control, is the very easternmost point of Australia. The sun hits here first, and it hits our sacred mountain first. And that activates the ley line or the song line that goes through our sacred mountains. Here we have one in the ocean, these two little islands, and then two sacred mountains, or really look like overgrown pyramids, that go to our sacred Lieberman mountain, otherwise known as Cloudcatcher. Goes all the way through to Uluru, all the way through to Ibiza, I think Ibiza. From Uluru to Giza, not Ibiza. Uh-huh. So then it's spilled out into the entire world. So that golden line of sun opens that timeline. So they say the thinking that happens here and the consciousness that happens here on East Coast Australia influences the rest of the world, because that's the direction that light travels, that's the direction the consciousness travels.
By Giza, you're referring to the pyramids of Giza.
Yeah.
So that runs up the Nilotic meridian. Does it work like that? Okay, and then that fits with, because I've been working with that line for quite a while, and I'm a songline singer. This is also what I was told by one of the Aboriginal painted elder men in a dream. And so part of what I've been doing over the years is working with my voice with the Nilotic meridian and keeping it clean. I always kind of feel like South Africa is a massive washing machine for the energies that gather at the tip of Cape Point to bring from the ocean that comes from the south, and the north, and the ocean that comes from the south, and then flashes up, which is also why there are so many Sangoma here and so many people called here to help with the cleaning process. So that's amazing. I didn't realize that it reached all the way from the tip of Australia. That makes
they call that like the birth canal. Yeah, it comes through these beautiful sacred stones called Matangali, these little islands, and they literally look like a coccyx. We call that the birth canal, and the line goes all the way through between the other sacred pyramids to our local mountain, all the way through. It continues on. You know how ley lines work. They have these beautiful patterns. Yeah. Continues on through Ireland and a bunch of sacred sites there. But yes, the Nilotic meridian, I actually see that as the vagus nerve of the planet, from Giza all the way down to Johannesburg, the Nile. And of course, as we're healing, the vagus nerve is huge in that, because it's holding all the central information of the body, of the being. So as we're going through this massive, as you say, washing machine of healing, that is going to be vibrating and moving and sending shockwaves out, really. In fact, I did a practice where you know how he who controls time controls the narrative. I was thinking about it earlier, how we call the Middle East, the Near East, the Middle East, the Far East, because embedded in that language is all relative to the fact that naturally England is the center, right? Naturally, Greenwich Meridian is the center of the universe. It's just unquestioned. So that could be a hijacking, and I recognize that very potentially Giza could be 0 point. Maybe at one point it was.
Yeah, I agree.
And one such thing. Yeah, and I calculated the meridians on either side. There's a sacred geometry of sacred sites along similar latitude to Giza, along the same distances, east and west of Giza. It's quite beautiful to notice, yeah. And the great discoveries and the great temples and civilizations that came out of that latitude.
Yeah, I haven't done any kind of mathematical calculations or things like that, but I've been very, very clearly shown that about Giza as well. In this blueprint that we're living now, which is busy changing, and that's what I'd really like to talk more about today, is what you're noticing in these change times. I've been noticing the archetypes themselves are changing. The archetypal beings are changing. They're taking on new attributes, and even new garments in the visions that I've been having. And I don't know where the center is moving to, but maybe it will, maybe it won't. It's going to be interesting to see. But certainly the blueprint that we're, from the timelines that I'm working on, we've already moved out of it, but there's a long lag. It's like a ship doing a very slow turn because it's so big, and the new coordinates have been set, and nothing's going to change them. But it's taking time to change direction because it's such a big ship.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I'm really interested in hearing what you're noticing, and I'd like to start, as I said to you just as we were entering into this before I pressed record, chatting about, I didn't even know Tonga happened, because I'm not inside with the news or social media at the moment very much at all. And also we were in ceremony all weekend and had some very big purge processes. It was amazing. And it was Saturday. I live in Hout Bay near the beach, and on Saturday evening we took the dog for a walk, and there's just mountains of kelp. And then I learned, okay, and there's more again this morning, and they keep cleaning it up, and there's more, and there's more, and there's more, and there's more. And then I saw on my family WhatsApp group, in Komaki it's the same. And then I thought, there's a volcano okay. And then the guys on the beach, the Khoisan guys, saying, this is a sign. It's not a small sign. This is a big sign. The guys cleaning up, and with some concern. And for me, it's not a bad sign. It's a good sign from how I read the reality, how I notice things, and how I understand the purge. But that's where I'd like to start. I'm really interested to hear what you have been experiencing there, what's been coming through to you in your dreaming state, and it all being relevant to, because it does feel like a massive purge. For me. And I mean, I even had the ocean take my body. I've never been taken by the ocean before. And throw huge waves onto the house on the weekend, and the people heard it as well, the bashes on which was quite profound. So what are you hearing? What are you hearing from the ocean?
Lots. I mean, I don't know if I can distinguish ocean, land, air beings. But there's definitely a massive purge and a massive, it's like what happens when a being is trying to heal itself. It detoxes. And in any healing capacity, on a microcosm or a macrocosm, it's like undergoing renovations. So you have to bash down the walls first and then wade around in the rubble before you can start cleaning out and then drawing the lines where you want the new settings to go. And the main thing that we've got to remember as individuals is to keep this in mind. It's intentional. It's always been planned. This is in the prophecies of many, many different cultures. And to cultivate a gentle endurance, and just to choose to see everything with this endurance, with this graceful endurance. Otherwise, we can be really wobbled. So it really depends where we place our attention, the kind of experience that we'll have. And it is foundations wobbling. It's like really the foundations are being uprooted. It's all connected, as we deforest and pull oil up and do all these things, it's all connected. So as the tree roots can no longer hold the soil, that destabilizes a lot of things, and that echoes all the way into the middle of the ocean. And everything is everything. As a butterfly flaps its wings, so a hurricane happens in China. As we pull up the foundation of the soil, So we see the soil all over, including under the ocean, react. And this is not necessarily, I'm not sure I particularly subscribe to the narrative that humans are naughty and bad.
Yeah,
it could be that life is happening through us, the shift, the change, the destabilizations that are necessary for this time is happening through us. So the self-blame is, self-accountability is great, and monitoring ourselves and the compass of where we want to go. But this, we're so bad, we're such naughty humans, we must be stopped, is not a useful narrative, because that traumatizes us. And a traumatized being only causes more harm. So I think the key and the remedy really is in self-remembering and self-love and self-compassion. I hear all these people speak about how humans should just leave the planet and it would be doing a favor for the planet if there were no humans. I disagree. I think there'd be something sorely and sadly missing from the planet if humans weren't here. And I think we'd be missed. So I think it's really about self-remembering what is our true role and how do we lovingly and swiftly come back to that. We're in
individuals. Are you talking as individuals or as collective?
Both. Macrocosm is microcosm. It's all one dreaming, one reflection, as I am inside. So I'm seeing. Yeah. And I think we forget how much the world actually loves us. The self-punitive behavior really is the symptom of a traumatized being. I'm talking about a being like the whole of humanity. And we forget how much, just think of our relationship with the plant kingdom. They make the oxygen that we breathe in. We make the carbon dioxide that they breathe in. It's this beautiful, you don't get a more intimate kiss than that. It's absolute love affair, timeless love affair. They would miss us. They love us. They want us to heal. They don't want us to be rid of them. Even look at the in Australia, they speak about moetis, like a sacred marriage, a divine marriage. 2 clans will be moeti, or the sacred sites on the earth and the stars that cross over them, they're moetis. It's the sacred divine marriage. And I think the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom and the human kingdom are moetis. Even if you look at the blood of plants, it's green with this chlorophyll, and the blood of humans is the opposite. It's red with iron, with lock in, We have this beautiful symbiosis, and that's our partner, that's our lover. So I think that remembering of how loved we are will be more healing than self-critical words. I think it will just traumatize us more and perpetuate that behavior.
Hey. Sehr boom. Yeah, we agree. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. Thank you so for articulating that so amazingly. I totally agree. In the 12+1 medicine wheel that I've taken on board most strongly, because I just love the story talk of it. The one, it's not from the Hopi. It's the one that I got from the story talk. The mythology of the points is from Robbie Warren, Art of Woman Standing. I forget now which family she's inside with in the Native American ways, but the plant kingdom, the rooted ones and the 2-leggeds and 4-leggeds. And I often put 3-leggeds in there as well, because I've got a 3-legged cat. They're in the same quarter of the wheel. They're they're both in the southeast quadrant.
Yeah, genetically we're not that different. No. Literally, we come from the same ancestor. Even if you look at chlorophyll and blood under a microscope, the mandala of each is only one molecule different. Plants have magnesium, humans have iron, but the rest is identical. So we come from a very common ancestor, and we're the same family.
Yeah. What are you noticing there on your beaches? What's coming out of the water?
Every day it's different. I like walking on the beach because every day it's different. It looks normal. I was just in the ocean yesterday. I know up north in Australia, they're having effects from Tonga.
Okay.
And we know the Great Barrier Reef is bleached.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's bleaching.
Wow. From Tonga?
Yeah. No,
that's from before.
Yeah. Slow burn. It's like the ocean has this rhythm, and sometimes we'll call it like a cornflake ocean, where tiny bits of kelp and you go in and swim and you come out covered. Other days it washes up pebbles, other days it washes up sponges, other day it washes up, driftwood, rocks.
Washed up, those Tonga waves washed up a rock onto the beach here as well.
Oh wow, a big rock.
Yeah.
I'm surprised as far as Africa, as Cape Town.
Yeah, it's profound. It's profound.
Yeah.
It's really profound how much is coming out of the ocean. I've been this morning I was feeling into the being that kelp is, Eclonia. And huge forests are landing on the shore. And, they're such phenomenal, graceful beings. My partner Sai, you know him. I sang a diet for him. He dieted Eclonia. And yeah, just the strength of those plants and the grace, the fluidity of them is profound. It's quite interesting to contemplate how many of them are landing on the shores now. It's almost like a mass exodus of dolphins or something like that, where a whole lot of beings beach themselves.
Right.
Yeah. I asked my dog this morning what she thought, and she said, "It's great." And I said, "What did you get from the kelp?" And she said, "Yum, yum, 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 yum." So everything seems to be fine, in the world of Pearl. Yeah.
Right. Lots of iodine there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm also interested, do you do work with humans? Do you do like healing work, training work, stuff like that? Because
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I just had a reading earlier today. I do the ancestral work, the ancestral readings that have taken on an embellishment of their own, given the teachings that I was given after my twasa, after my graduation. And so those teachings, they'll span across 5 streams of reality. So the body of knowledge I got is the 5 pillars of medicine, and all the teachings come in 5s. So there's 5 branches, and in the 3rd branch, which is the fabric of spirit, how reality is built, the first teaching was that there's only 5 streams of reality. There's only 5 modes of perceptions, 5 ways we can perceive reality. It's like 5 threads that make up the fabric of reality. And they are time, space, level, dimension, and plane. And that accounts for how we are this quantum beyond time and space being, and will manifest through ancestry and past lives and the unseen interdimensional guides and the physicality of our being, all the way from the body to the spirit, the different densities of our being. So when I do a reading, traditionally an ancestral reading, the way the person might need to hear their story and their central wound echoed back to them will span across one of those. So it's that work embellished and expanded. And because I'm in Australia and I'm not on African land, and my training is in Africa, and the lore, Lore, of this land is very specific, and I'm very respectful of it because it's been wounded so deeply. I won't train anyone on Australian soil because I'm not initiated in Australian lore. So I'll work with people, we'll do modalities, we'll do readings and ceremonies and integrations, and I'll teach the 5 pillars of medicine, and I'll do ancestral workshops, so giving them empowered practices of how you can do ceremony like an ocean cleanse, whether you're cleaning off a psychic attack or whether you're asking for a blessing or acknowledging some ancestral wound. I give them the scaffolding and they can embellish on that. The training itself I don't do, but yeah, absolutely walking people through the 5 pillars of medicine, which is so simple and so sophisticated at the same time. It's really just looking with real precision at the mirror that life is. That I love doing. Yeah.
Wonderful. And so now what I'm curious about is, what have you noticed? Have you noticed any kind of, or not, I'll reword it because I'm pretty sure you have, what common threads have you noticed in this past time moving through with the kind of things that we're experiencing on the planet, in our society, in our human society, in our human political world, family world, relational world, and So I've spoken to some other healer folk about with similar questions, and some are noticing similar. Okay, in the body of energy, when a person's, for example, had corona or been vaccinated or whatever, like this is what we notice, and this is how we find it's helpful to resolve that thing. In the returning to harmony, and then that return being kind of like an upgrade as well. Yeah, and so I'm interested in what you've been noticing through the color of the light that you are, and the work that it manifests, and the people that it brings, and in this whole shift. And yeah, I mean, I think earlier you really got a beautiful nutshell gem when you said, about it's much more useful to nurture self-love than to do the self-judgment, judge humanity thing. Rather, love humanity, yeah, all that stuff. So we've got that piece. Yeah. What are you noticing? What are you noticing with humans?
We can fall in love with the world. What am I noticing with humans? Well, I'm noticing the readings change a little bit, the ancestral readings, in that it's no longer personal. It's no longer I can give that person, I'm just the messenger, convey to them what I'm seeing about their ancestry and what needs aligning and what's the story. But it's coming from the earth now. So I'll burn my mpepu and I'll do my greetings and my openings, and immediately I'll start seeing the earth tell me, we need this person to heal because they carry that. Whereas before it was about that individual and their ancestors. So that's what I'm noticing there.
So do you mean like really sorry, I want to just understand you rightly. Am I hearing you say that the earth is coming through to say, step into your purpose now? Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. We need this one healed because they carry that. It's all a puzzle piece, all the fractals of this one hologram are wanting and calling to come into alignment. It's almost like a magnetic pull back to center. And of course that can be gritty if there's obstacles in the way, gritty and bumpy, and we're hitting a bit of turbulence, all of which is expected and necessary and not very pleasant. I have full compassion and still think that cultivating this graceful endurance is the best way to move through this. Sure, we're hitting a big wobble. It's not unseen. For thousands of years, this has been seen like clockwork. What's come. And this lifetime, think about how huge this one lifetime is. We in South Africa, I was 2 years old when television came. So at the beginning of my life, there wasn't even television. Playing outside in the garden, creatures crawling from the neighbors. Then came television, then about 10 years later came computers, and now we walk around with this encyclopedia in our pocket. And in a way, we're too close to the wood for the trees. We can't zoom out and see long time. We think a day is a long time. But if you think about it, how big that is in one lifetime, one generation, for that huge acceleration. And you could say we are so pregnant with birthing human consciousness that this magnetic hypnotic challenge to arrest the attention and hypnotize and distract us has come so fast in one lifetime. Why? Because this lifetime is that important. Mm-hmm. And one vision that I got that really drives my understanding here a lot is when Dan first got sick. A few weeks afterwards, I received a teaching. I wasn't sleeping because I was in shock and just my nervous system was really activated because suddenly we went from normal life to emergency and hospital. And I had 5 visions from ancient Egypt over the next few years, 2 while he was alive and 3 subsequently. And the very first one, I had taken some CBD oil to try help me sleep and try calm my nervous system. What it did was calm my nervous system, but take my energy, not to sleep, but to vision. And it took me on a very long journey and started explaining to me how humanity started to come here. But the first thing it said was because we are now entering from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, it means that we're directly opposite the end of the age of Virgo, moving into the age of Leo. So because we're directly across that circle, 12,500 years it would take for that to turn, because we're directly across from that, not only can we see it, but because we can see it, we can start to remedy it. We can deal with and address everything that began at that time. And it could be around that time. I haven't checked my history. I know that's when the Sphinx was taking prominence, because it's the Virgin's head in the lion's body, Virgo into Leo. It could be around that time that writing became mainstream in civilization.
Yeah.
That has one of the biggest impacts on humanity, outsourcing from oral tradition to writing down, outsourcing our memory, relying on something else to map the entire cosmos instead of this internal cosmos of our neural networks. And I think we are directly across from that. This lifetime now is as big and impactful as the lifetime we received writing as commonplace. So while we're all distracted and hypnotized and too close to the wood for the trees, I think we should zoom out for a moment and just notice the incredible impact and relevance and profundity of this one lifetime, this generation, that we are here now. Whether we chose to be or we forgot that we chose to be, or whatever the story is, we're here now for this lifetime. And then we have this moment, this beautiful crowning moment, as you're calling your series, the crowning. And the prophecy has been all about this time, whether it's Mayan or whether it's the Kali Yuga or any indigenous tradition has spoken about this time, the awakening, this time. And then we have something called Corona, which means crown. And in a birthing process, that's what you say when the child is just starting to come out, is it's crowning. So I see some kind of symmetry there. I don't think that's a mistake. And it's birth isn't easy. It's challenging, it's uncomfortable, and there's no guarantee either party, the mother or the baby, is going to survive. But it's birth. That's where we are now.
Hey, you said so many things that I loved right there. Thank you so much. Sure. No, I have a full open yes inside my whole body and my whole entire team about the vision and thought and possibility of us being in that opposite exact to when writing began. I had a vision a few years ago as well. I was sitting beside the fire with my grandfather, and he spoke to me and said, we were talking about my job, and he said, yeah, your job, you're a lore maker, a myth writer, like a myth creator as such. And he said, this is part of our line, and he said, don't get it wrong like we did. Don't write anything in stone. Don't write stuff, like be very, very aware of your writing, of the words that you write, especially the words that you write. I mean, we know we must be aware of the words we speak, and that we think, even the all of that, to be fully aware and conscious of the choices of how we are directing our ways, makia, ike, those principles, but specifically writing. And he said, keep it simple and keep it multidimensional, keep it that multi-layered, that every word has got meaning that is an evolving meaning, that the writing's able to evolve in the reading of it, in every person's awareness. It can evolve. It can bring its own story to that person. That's how lore needs to be, in order for us not to have or create, unwittingly perhaps, create the kind of stagnation or looping that we created last time we did this. Yeah, it resonates so deeply. I don't very much know astrology, and so I didn't know that was the case, but I certainly have got a very deep encounter with Sphinx energy, and in fact, I was killed in that form by Madresita Ayahuasca one time as well. So like there's a really deep resonance in what you're saying. It's everywhere we go, we're given blessings and opportunities to know ourselves better. And really this is one of the greatest gifts that life on earth gives, hey, because it is a place of choice. And we can follow our feet any which direction. And it actually doesn't really matter which direction we go if we have our awareness open.
And
our yes is open. Then we can see the reflection, and through that comes grace to proceed as one with nature together. It's beautiful.
Wise grandfather, what a beautiful message he passed on.
Yeah, and profound, because in real life he was a grumpy old sod. And there was so much like abuse of power in that line, but for him to come forward as the spokesperson for the line, it was really beautiful. It helped me to really bring a lot of forgiving, wash away my own pain that I took on when I came in, It's beautiful.
It's funny, I know sometimes they do that. The person who's least likely in the lineage will be put forward to pass a message. I remember when I was refusing my twasa, I was refusing to initiate. And so my dad came to me in a dream. Beautiful soul, but had no belief in any life after death. And he's the one who had to tell me in a medicine hut, Madasini, he had to tell me, you're a tough nut to crack. So waking up at that was like, wow, if even he's cracked, then I'm dragging my feet.
No, that's beautiful. I had the cacao tree come up to me and say, stop fucking around. You need to initiate, and you're born here for a reason,
Yeah.
Africa.
Yeah, and I love what you say about it doesn't matter which way you go, which way you put your feet, because life is a hologram. We can learn through anything, we can see the same patterns in everything. So you can learn through music, you can learn through song, you can learn through having teachers, you can learn through relationships, you can learn through writing. Everything's going to be a mirror because it's a fractal within a fractal. So when we realize that we're seeing ourselves reflected outwardly, and the very same governing principles operating through all of reality, we can start to fall in love with it because it's a mirror. Now, this is the importance of the self-love. We have to fall back in love with ourselves because we are a mirror of what is, and what is a mirror of us. So once we fall back in love with ourselves, with that compassion for the fact that we've moved into such forgetting and such trauma that allows us to continue traumatizing, and just that still compassion and allowing that grief to wash and allowing that shame to wash, then we can start to see that same pattern reflected in everything, and the magic and the mystery of life reflected in everything. So when we fall back in love with ourselves, we can fall back in love with the earth. And then now we're talking of saving the earth. Now we're talking of doing real remedial work, and remembering the past is actually seeding the future. So I like that, remembering the future, because as we remember the ways we used to do things and the ancient knowledge, so that makes it applicable. Now we can apply that in the future. So remembering that Earth herself is an alchemist. Look at what she has made. She can probably make anything from the crystal to the rock to the oil to the different kinds of waters to the plants to the birds and all their mating dances to the humans and the animals and the unseen forces and the wind and it's absolutely exquisite. This planet is a full-on laboratory of conscious, incredible intent. So what I'm remembering is that there was a time not so long ago, because we live in this biosymbiotic, we're of the same material as the earth. We could, with our consciousness, find a way to request things of this limitless alchemist. Go into ceremony, ask the right way in the right tempo, and request for something to be made, and she can make it. Now, this is just a hunch, but it's the most convincing hunch I've ever had.
Ooh,
so once we remember who we are, we can really start to see magic begin to happen, because we remember who the earth is as well and what we're capable of. I mean, we are the seat of all dreaming. We are all one dreamer. So, the imagination in our culture, we're taught is nothing. Oh, it's just a dream. Don't worry about it, they say as a kid. It's just your imagination. Meanwhile, everything that we have created is born first in the imagination. It is the seat of creativity. From the chair I'm sitting on, the clothes I'm wearing, the jewelry I have, everything, the shed I'm sitting in, everything is born in imagination first. And then we can materialize it through our visioning, through our hands. So we can pretty much make anything if we've made this and the advanced technology that we've made. We are the dreamers that can see it in a reality, which is why if there's a distraction that may not want any reality, best distract our dreaming capacity, disempower us to think our dreams and imagination are not important, and then distract us, seed us with weird things, sci-fi and whatnot. On one hand, you can look at it like that. You can look at it with suspicion, but how you look at it is what creates the alchemy. So I'm choosing to look at it as birth is an initiation. It's a challenge. You break through a membrane. You break through from an inner world to an outer world. Initiation, you cross this invisible looking glass from one way of perceiving to another way of perceiving. These are challenging moments. You go through rite of passage as a young Zulu boy or Sotho boy. It's challenging. You might not survive. It's that important that you go through initiation that you may not survive as a worthwhile cost. So here we are in one of the most challenging experiences we've ever had on the planet. Full distraction, full hypnosis, full coercion. It's that important, the awakening, that the challenge matches that amplitude. The awakening is so great that it needs this level of challenge to be worthy of it. So I choose to look at it that way. Because the level of the challenge and the way we flower through that challenge determines the quality of that flower and the nutrition of that fruit.
The strength of the medicine. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the amount of consciousness and awareness that has been being born through this experience is profound. It's really profound.
Yeah.
I want to share with you as well, Lila, and I guess anybody who's watching now or watching this whenever you get it, it's perfect timing. Something that I've been doing on the other side of this crowning series conversations is crowning series attunements. And it's a songline singing project that I was asked to do by my team, working together with the mountains of the Cape Peninsula here initially, in the chakric points that have been discovered here or indicated, dowsed, geomanced by Dean Laprini. And the specific pathway that I've been asked to follow is the pathway of the 7-tiered labyrinth, which of course begins on the solar plexus, on the yellow pyramid rock, which is the time for dreaming, visioning, setting intentions, and that's about to be released. We're releasing one a month, and then it walks through a pathway of manifestation through the body. So this is an ancient technology that is found. It's even that labyrinth is inscribed in the Giza pyramids, in the Celtic old stuffs, over the seas, old stuffs, the Hopi labyrinths, all that stuff. So yeah, it really is time now, because nothing happens for nothing, and this now, I guess, is whenever any person comes across it. That time, there's no such thing as too late, really. That's a tough one. That can feel really difficult. That one. How do you do that? How do you overcome the feeling of running out of time? of being too late, you know, when, yeah, in your own practice, in your own work.
Yeah, I don't
You,
fall into that because it's not helpful. I step into a quantum perception of time, you know, where I can actually move much quicker because there's no rush.
So can you give perhaps an imagining or a pathway that will make it easier for people to step into the quantum timeline state? Is there something?
Yeah, it's absolutely just like anything else. It's like prepare your vessel, dress for the job you want, prepare your vessel for that which you want. So many different ways of doing this: nutrition, walking on the earth, drinking good water, just one breath with full intent, with full self-love, to just enjoy the fact that you have a body now. And preparing your vessel in whatever way feels like cleaning it to you, and cleaning your consciousness, cleaning your mind, even if it's a tiny bit, preparing the vessel. Because my experience, and therefore my understanding, has been that nobody can initiate. They can't initiate themselves, and nobody can initiate another. All we can do is prepare the vessel of our being, and then initiation happens spontaneously as a consequence. So it's like preparing the chalice of your mind, and then the nectar gets poured in. So prepare your vessel to hold a certain caliber of knowledge, and when you're ripe enough, you will encounter, it will dawn within you a dewdrop of realization. And this is what in ancient Tibet they call termas. Terma means the hidden gem. And Padmasambhava, just like with many different traditions, Padmasambhava is Guru Rinpoche, is known as the second Buddha. He knew that a difficult time was coming on earth, just like they knew in Atlantis and ancient Egypt. They knew this time was coming now because they could see through long time, because they weren't addicted to seeing time as a line. So what he did was he cultivated all his teachings, and then when he left his body, he left it, these hidden gems in the plasma of consciousness. And some of them even physical. So some practitioners, some initiates in Tibet have physically found hidden gems, and others have found them in the way of teachings. So this is placed outside of time and space to naturally blossom in the consciousness of one who's ripe. So all it is love yourself, tend yourself, allow the natural ripening of your being. You can't ripen, life ripens through us. A tree, fruit on the tree can't make itself red from being green. It can just allow. So just clear yourself and remove all the obstacles that impact that allowing, and we will naturally ripen, and then we can dawn on our ripening, our blossoming. It just happens naturally. So it's more a case of non-doing, of keeping clean, of trusting, and of keeping our channel open, of remembering we are hollow bone medicine, we are antenna, and we can choose what radio station to turn into, and have compassion for the self, no matter how slowly it goes. Just that intention for one beautiful breath is a huge impact, because right now it seems like nothing, but the ripple effect of that in eons to come could make all the difference.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And again, like before, I was saying, I want to have a chat with you under a different series title soon. As soon as I've got the title, I'll let you know. Yeah, because there's some stuff there that I'm interested in exploring more as well. Yeah, it's very cool. Okay, what else is there? How are we doing? I think we're approaching an hour now. Maybe we might be. In fact, I think we're just over. No, not quite. Almost. Let's see. So to sum it up, Lila, from your world and from the world of the plants that you commune with, and the mountains and the waters and the stones and the deserts, everything, the air. If you were to give a gem now, and I know you've given so many gems already, is there a last one that you can?
I would say, don't worry, be happy. I don't mean that in a complacent way. I mean that as happiness is such potent medicine And each one of us is such a powerful living force in the world, beyond what we recognize, beyond what our culture has given us as an heirloom to know who we are, that we really, that gorgeous quality of gratitude and appreciation, happiness is the medicine. So if we can cultivate that, we can start to see the living being in the plants around us and the animals around us, start to cultivate the reemergence of the fullness of ourselves. And I remember I practiced for many years with the Art of Living, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, and we would do this Sudarshan Kriya, and then sometimes we'd go and sit and listen to teachings afterwards. And the one thing that he said that just stayed with me for so many years was, he said, be happy. And that's an instruction, not a suggestion.
Yeah, it's like one of the Kahuna principles, aloha. It means, the simplified way of how it means is to love is to be happy with,
Right. Yeah,
and
beautiful.
And yes, it's a choice, and it's a requirement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an invitation. We don't want to impose it on ourselves, and we certainly don't want to be self-critical if we are going through anxiety and depression, which is fully understandable right now.
Mm-hmm.
But the gratitude that comes from happiness, and the happiness that comes from gratitude, so gratitude is actually a better starting point, is so nutritious to the world around us that it cultivates this quality and this frequency that we want the new earth to birth from. We want to seed and fertilize the soil of our own deliverance. And this is how we do it. This mindful gratitude, just with whatever is.
Thank you so much, Lila, for joining me, for agreeing to join me. And I'm really looking forward to having more conversations with you, and I hope we get to meet in person one day as well.
Yeah, that will be beautiful.
Thank you so much for all the wisdoms that you've brought forward here.
It's an honor to be invited. Thank you.
Many blessings. Have a beautiful, beautiful evening, I think.
You too.
Beautiful.